They gave me 6 months. 6 months to slow down. 6 months to prepare. 6 months, they said, before I became a problem instead of a person. I smiled and let them think I was afraid. What they didn't know was this: I've survived things that were supposed to break me. I built a business when banks wouldn't even let me sit down. I raised children while being underestimated every single day. So when my family started whispering about my money, my house, my future, I started listening. I stopped correcting them, stopped defending myself. Because when people think you're finished, they tell the truth. And in 6 months, I wasn't preparing to leave. I was preparing to expose everyone who thought I wouldn't notice. The diagnosis came on a Tuesday. Terminal, they said, stage 4, inoperable. The doctor's mouth kept moving, but all I could hear was the hum of the fluorescent lights above me. Cold, clinical, final. My daughter Sandra held my hand too tight. My son Marcus stared at the floor. My sister Diane cried into a tissue she'd already shredded to pieces. But I didn't cry, not then. I asked the doctor how long. He said 6 months, maybe 8 if I was lucky. Lucky, as if there was any luck left in a body that had decided to betray me. They walked me out of that hospital like I was made of glass. Suddenly fragile. Suddenly someone to be managed, handled, protected from sharp edges and hard truths. Sandra started talking about hospice care. Marcus mentioned selling the house, something smaller, easier to maintain. Diane suggested I update my will. All of this before we even reached the parking lot. I told them I needed time to think, time to process. What I really needed was time to watch. Because here's what happens when people think you're dying: they stop pretending. The mask slips, the performance ends, and you get to see who they really are when they think the audience is leaving. That night, I sat in my kitchen. The same kitchen where I'd fed every single one of them, where I'd baked birthday cakes and nursed heartbreaks and listened to problems I had no business solving but solved anyway. I made myself tea, chamomile. My mother used to say chamomile calmed the spirit. My spirit didn't need calming. It needed clarity. I opened my laptop, started going through my finances, my accounts, my properties, everything I'd built from nothing while the world told me I'd never amount to anything. 3 rental properties, a business that still generated income even though I'd stepped back, investments my late husband Bernard and I had made when we were young and foolish enough to believe in compound interest. I wasn't rich, but I was comfortable, secure, safe. And apparently, that made me a target. The first crack in the facade came 3 days later. I was sitting in my living room, pretending to nap. Eyes closed, breathing slow and steady. It's amazing what people will say when they think you can't hear them. Sandra and Marcus were in the kitchen. I could hear the clink of coffee mugs, the scrape of chairs. "We need to talk about the house," Marcus said, his voice low, careful. "I know," Sandra replied. "It's too much for her now, and honestly, the equity in this place, it's just sitting here doing nothing. If we sell now, before things get complicated, we could split it 3 ways. Me, you, and Diane. Set aside enough for her care, obviously." "Obviously." "Mom would understand," Sandra said. "She's always been practical." Practical, that's what they called it, practical. I kept my eyes closed, kept breathing slowly, but inside something crystallized, something hard and cold and absolutely clear. They weren't worried about my care. They were worried about their inheritance. That Sunday, Diane came over with her husband, Robert. Robert had always been a weasel, thin-lipped, calculating, the kind of man who smiled with his mouth but never his eyes. We sat in the living room. Diane brought cookies she'd bought from the grocery store but arranged on a plate like she'd baked them herself. Small deceits. They start small. "We've been thinking," Diane began, glancing at Robert for support, "about your finances, about making sure everything is organized, you know, for when." She couldn't even say it. When I die, when I'm gone, when I'm no longer inconveniently alive. "Robert works with estates," she continued. "He could help you set things up properly, make sure there are no Complications later. Robert leaned forward, his smile practiced and professional. It's really just about protecting your assets, making sure your wishes are honored. We'd set up a trust, power of attorney, make sure everything transfers smoothly. Transfers? To whom, Robert? To whom? That's very thoughtful, I said softly, playing the role they needed me to play, tired, confused, grateful for their guidance. We just want to help, Diane said, reaching for my hand. Her palm was sweaty. I know you do, I told her. That night, I called my lawyer. Not the family lawyer, my lawyer. The one I'd kept for my business dealings, the one who'd helped me navigate divorces and contracts and lawsuits over the years. Her name was Patricia Chen, and she didn't waste time on sympathy. What do you need? She asked. I need to know exactly what happens to everything I own when I die, and I need to know who's been asking questions about my estate. There was a pause. Then, you think someone's making moves? I don't think I know. Give me 48 hours. Patricia called back in 36. Your son Marcus contacted 3 real estate agents in the last 2 weeks, got appraisals on your property, didn't list himself as the owner, but implied he had authority to sell. My hand tightened on the phone. Your sister's husband Robert filed preliminary paperwork for a conservatorship. It hasn't been submitted yet, but it's drafted. He's claiming you're mentally incompetent to manage your affairs. Incompetent. And Sandra. Sandra's been meeting with a financial advisor, discussing liquidating assets, your assets. She brought copies of old tax returns. I don't know how she got them, but she has them. I closed my eyes, breathed, opened them again. What are my options? Legally, you're still competent. You can do whatever you want with your money and property. You can change your will, set up trusts, create conditions. You're not dead yet. Not yet. Here's what I want you to do, I said. And I began to plan. The thing about being underestimated your entire life is you learn to use it. You learn that when people think you're weak, they drop their guard. They get sloppy. They say things they shouldn't say, do things they shouldn't do. They forget you're still here, still watching, still listening, still very much alive. I started accepting help I didn't need. Let Sandra organize my medications. Let Marcus review my bills. Let Diane and Robert come over twice a week to check on things. I played tired, confused, a little forgetful. And they ate it up. Each visit, they got bolder, more obvious. They stopped whispering and started planning right in front of me, like I was already a ghost haunting my own house. Marcus brought papers for me to sign in week 4. Just some updated insurance documents, he said, sliding a folder across my kitchen table. The same table where I'd helped him with homework, where I'd taught him to tie his shoes, where I'd held him when his first girlfriend broke his heart. I picked up the papers with shaking hands, let my reading glasses slip down my nose, squinted at the words like they were hard to make out. They weren't insurance documents. They were transfer deeds, property transfers, from my name to his. I'm not sure I understand all this, I said softly, playing my part perfectly. It's simple, Mom. We're just making sure everything's protected. If anything happens, the house automatically goes to me and Sandra. No probate, no legal fees. It's better this way. Better for whom, Marcus? Where do I sign? His eyes lit up, eager, hungry. Right here, and here I'll witness it. I held the pen, let it hover over the signature line. Then I set it down. Actually, I'd like my lawyer to look at this first. Patricia's always helped me with big decisions. The light in his eyes went out. His jaw tightened. Mom, this isn't a big decision. It's just paperwork. And honestly, we don't have time for delays, the doctor said. The doctor said 6 months. It's only been 4 weeks, Marcus. I think I have time for Patricia to review some papers. He gathered up the documents quickly, angry, like a child whose toy had been taken away. Fine, but we're just trying to help you. You know that, right? I know exactly what you're trying to do. He left without kissing me goodbye. That night, Sandra called. Her voice was tight, controlled. Marcus said you wouldn't sign the transfer papers. That's right. Mom, we're trying to protect you. Protect your assets. My assets don't need protecting, Sandra. They're mine. And last time I checked, I'm still alive. Silence, cold and heavy. You're not thinking clearly. The medication, the stress. I'm thinking perfectly clearly. Clearer than I have in years, actually. We should talk about this in person. I'm coming over tomorrow. Don't bother, I'm busy. Busy with what? Mom, you're dying. Not today, I'm not. I hung up. Patricia called an hour later. They're going to escalate. The conservatorship paperwork. Robert submitted it this afternoon. Emergency filing. Claims you're a danger to yourself, mentally unfit, being taken advantage of by unknown parties. Unknown parties. He's implying someone's manipulating you. Probably means me. I laughed, actually laughed. It felt good. How long before the hearing? 2 weeks. But here's the thing, I spoke to your doctor, the one who diagnosed you. He's willing to testify that you're completely mentally competent. Sharp as ever, he said. He was actually quite angry when I told him what your family is trying to do. Good. What else do we need? Evidence, documentation, proof of their intentions. Right now it's your word against theirs. What if I told you I've been recording every conversation I've had with them for the last month? Another pause, then Patricia laughed. Are you serious? Completely. Every visit, every phone call, every whispered conversation they thought I couldn't hear, I have all of it. That's beautiful. Where did you learn to do that? You don't build a business as a black woman in the 70s without learning to protect yourself. I've been recording important conversations since before you were born, Patricia. I'm 53. My point exactly. The hearing was set for a Thursday morning. Robert looked confident walking into that courtroom. Diane looked nervous but determined. Marcus and Sandra sat in the back, united in their certainty that this was for my own good. The judge was a woman in her 60s, Judge Morrison. She'd seen everything and her face showed it. Robert's lawyer went first, painted me as confused, declining, vulnerable, said I'd been acting erratically, making poor decisions, refusing help from loving family members who only wanted what was best for me. He made me sound like a child. Then Patricia stood up. Your Honor, I'd like to call Mrs. Thompson to the stand. I walked up slowly, let them think I was weak, fragile. Then I sat down, looked the judge directly in the eye, and began to speak. I spoke clearly, precisely. I recounted my medical diagnosis, my treatment plan, my prognosis. I explained my assets, my investments, my properties. I listed account numbers from memory. I discussed market conditions and property values and financial projections. I was sharp, focused, undeniably competent. The judge's eyebrow went up. Then Patricia played the recordings. Marcus discussing selling my house before I died. Sandra planning to liquidate my investments. Diane and Robert drafting conservatorship papers while I was sitting in the next room. Their voices, clear and damning, filled the courtroom. The judge's face went from neutral to cold. When the recording ended, she looked at Robert. Counselor, does your client have anything to say? Robert stood up, flustered. Your Honor, this was all. It was a misunderstanding. They were trying to help. By lying to the court, by claiming incompetence where none exists, by attempting to seize control of assets from a woman who clearly has full capacity. We were concerned. You were concerned about an inheritance. This court sees it plainly. She turned to me. Mrs. Thompson, your petition for conservatorship is denied. Furthermore, I'm issuing a restraining order preventing these family members from accessing your property or finances without your explicit written consent. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. I'm sorry this happened to you. You deserved better from your family. I nodded, didn't trust myself to speak. As we left the courtroom, Sandra tried to approach me. Mom, please, we can explain. I walked past her, didn't look back. Patricia drove me home. What now? She asked. Now I'm changing my will. Everything goes to charity. The hospital, the women's shelter, the scholarship fund Bernard and I started years ago. Nothing to your children. They already tried to take everything. They don't get to have it just because they failed. I lived another 2 years, not 6 months. The doctors were surprised. I wasn't. Spite is a powerful medicine. I spent those 2 years traveling, spending my money on myself, making new friends, living fully and completely and without apology. When I finally did die, peacefully in my sleep at 79, my lawyer delivered the news to my family. Nothing, they got nothing. And my last gift to them was the knowledge that they had done this to themselves. Sometimes the best revenge isn't confrontation. It's simply living long enough to make sure they know exactly what they lost. And why.